Congratulations on your acceptance to Hobart and William Smith. Thank you for joining us via Zoom this evening to discuss student safety and wellness. Before we get started, I'd like to ask everyone to keep their microphones on mute. The session is being recorded and we'd like to limit extra noise as much as possible. Any questions you have can be submitted via the chat feature and we will answer them later in the session. My name is Daphne Bendel and I'm a senior at Hobart and William Smith from San Francisco, California. I'm double majoring in art history, and I'm also double minoring in theater and German. Outside of class, I've enjoyed being part of the equestrian team, serving as the president of the German club. I'm tutoring elementary school at the Boys and Girls Club through the America Counts program, serving as an orientation leader for the remote international students, and working in the Office of Campus Safety. A few summers ago, I brought my academic interests to life through an internship at the Smith Opera House in downtown Geneva. There, I helped run events and gave tours of the historical facility. I also interned at a local theater company closer to home, assisting with a youth theater camp. I'm joined today by Vice President for Campus Life, Robb Flowers, and Associate Vice President for Campus Safety, Martin Corbett, to talk about student safety at HWS. To start the conversation, I'm going to ask Marty and Robb to introduce themselves.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm Marty Corbett. I'm the Associate Vice President of Campus Safety. Just very briefly about myself, I've been with the colleges for about 12 years, and I had a career in law enforcement, suburban police department outside of Rochester, New York, for about 32 years. After getting my master's degree, I came to the colleges because I really wanted to work with students. I thought that would be a great transition for me, and it's really been a wonderful, wonderful experience for HWS.
Thanks, Marty. You would think that perhaps after 13 or 14 months of nonstop Zoom meetings, I'd learn to turn off mute when I speak. But Rebecca and Holly, we appreciate you joining us very much this evening and look forward to talking with you. My name is Robb Flowers. I've been at the colleges I'm finishing my 17th year. My wife, Katie, who runs the community service office on campus, with whom Daphne is well acquainted, has also worked here for the 17 years, and we've raised our daughter here in Geneva, and it's been simply a wonderful place to work. I came here after finishing law school at the University of Buffalo, and my wife was finishing graduate school there as well. So we look forward to talking with you tonight.
Great. So Marty, will you briefly outline the measures taken to keep students safe on campus?
Sure, Daphne. Thank you. I'd be happy to. And again, everyone who's on the call, thank you for choosing HWS if you've made your decision. And if you're still unsure, then we certainly know you'll make the right choice for yourself, but we certainly hope it includes HWS. So campus safety. I've got a dedicated staff of campus safety officers that are available working at the colleges 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They really, really do care about students in our campus community. They're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all the time. In fact, even at our office, we always have a campus safety officer there. So if a student wants to come into the office in the middle of the night or anytime to meet with campus safety, there's always someone there. In fact, if you've called the campus safety office, or if you've called the college's office, you've actually spoke to a campus safety officer that answers the main switchboard. Our staff patrols the campus all the time. They do that in a variety of different ways. They do it in vehicles, they do it on foot, and weather permitting, they do it on bicycles. And they're into the academic buildings on campus, the administrative buildings. They patrol the grounds, but more importantly, they also stop through and go through the residence halls. And that's very intentional. We get to meet students that way. We get to know our students, and we get to let them know that we're there as a resource for them and to help them with anything that they might need. But when students come to the colleges in August for your orientation, at that time, you're actually going to have some face time with campus safety. It's going to be myself or another member of my staff. And we're going to talk to students about safety on campus, because here at HWS, we believe it's a shared responsibility. And so we're going to talk to students about their personal safety on campus. We'll talk to them about safeguarding their property. And we'll also talk to them about fire safety, which is something that is sometimes overlooked, but really, really important, especially when you're in a residential environment at a college. We talk to them a lot about how they can reach out to us and get a hold of us if they need us. But we also talk to them about how we're going to reach out to them if there was an emergency on campus. So for example, we utilized our Everbridge mass notification system, where we can reach out to students through text message or cell phone call if there's some type of significant emergency that's occurring on campus. Not only do we have those two modes of reaching students, but we also have an external speaker system. When you're in a class, quite often faculty members like to go outside when it's nice weather, and you know that whenever you're in a class with faculty, they're always going to say, turn your cell phone off. And so if your cell phone's off, you may not get that emergency message. So our external speaker system is a way to reach folks that are outside, be it a class or athletes that are practicing on the field. They'll hear that alert tone, they'll hear the message, and they'll know what action to take. We also have a desktop computer notification system also. Anybody using a proprietary computer here at the colleges will get that emergency message popped right up on the screen when they're using it. And it's right there for them to see, and then they have to acknowledge it. So we have a variety of ways that we can actually reach out to students and let them know if something's going on that they need to know about. But one of the things I'd kind of like to focus on is what I think is services that we provide that's maybe a little more above and beyond, possibly what some other colleges and universities might do. Most schools have what they call a safe ride or escort program, and Hobart and William Smith is no different. Our safe ride program is just one simple call to campus safety. If a student doesn't feel like walking back from the library late at night, they just have to call us and we'll come pick them up and we'll bring them back. And if necessary, we'll walk them right up to the door. Now, safe rides seem to go up when it's raining and snowing. So we're still trying to figure out, why that is. And, as I said on another call, that joke lands really well in person. Not so sure how good it does here in the virtual world, but it's actually true. But that's okay. We don't mind, because rides are an opportunity for us to get to know students. So it's not just putting a student in a car and driving them from point A to point B. It's an opportunity for our staff to meet them, to get to know who they are, to talk a little bit with them, and to find out a little bit about what's happening and how their experience is here at HWS. And you'd be surprised sometimes what we might learn. We'll get a call, or we'll be out with a student and they'll say, geez, I think my mom and dad are going to be really upset with me. I'm not doing too well in a couple of my classes. And that's a chance for officers to say, it's going to be okay. And have you considered going to the Center for Teaching and Learning? Have you gone to study mentors? Have you been to your professor's office hours? If you really need some additional accommodations, Center for Teaching and Learning, your dean's office. So our officers are well versed in those resources that they can provide to students in those moments. It hasn't been uncommon once in a while for our officers, right, to divert from a ride to the counseling center for a student that really needs some attention, needs to talk to somebody. But beyond safe rides, we'll transport students for medical reasons. Sometimes a student might get hurt. We'll pick them up at their res hall in the morning. We'll get them to breakfast, lunch, classes, whatever they need us to do. We also provide some off-campus transportation for students. So if a student has a physical therapy appointment or a doctor's appointment, anything like that, we're more than happy to get them to those appointments as long as they're within Geneva area. But finally, it's academic opportunities that we provide some transportation for also. Our teacher education program is really great about getting opportunities for students in the high school, junior high, grammar schools, and other schools right in the area. But not every student has a car or a way to get there. So campus safety, we've made it our mission to assist students in that academic endeavor, and we're going to make sure that they get to those placements and they get a ride back to campus. That's been really, really popular with a lot of students, and we're pleased to provide that service. Some other things that we've done, a student might get sick, they have a prescription to pick up, maybe their friends are a little too busy to do that for them. They're not feeling well enough to do it. It's not uncommon for officers to grab somebody's bank card, run over to Walgreens or Wegmans or wherever they need to go, get that prescription and bring it back to the student. And so essentially what we like to say is pretty much everything is our job. There's nothing that we wouldn't do for students, faculty, or staff or visitors here. If a student calls us and says the heat's not working in my room, we're not going to tell them, okay, we'll call facilities. We're going to call facilities for them. We're going to take care of that. We're going to make sure that somebody gets over there and takes care of that problem, even if we have to get a hold of somebody and call them in to do it. And, for parents, we're always willing to help parents out also, especially when we start to get down to the end of a semester and finals. We'll get calls from parents and they say, it kind of goes like this: geez, I'm really nervous and kind of embarrassed about calling, but I insert your son or daughter's name. I haven't heard from them, and I've texted them and I've called them and I've left messages. They're not returning my calls, and it's been 2 days and I'm really getting worried. Don't worry about making those calls to us, because we will go out, we will hunt them down, and we'll make sure that they call you while we stand there. Students can get really, really busy, especially when it comes up to finals, midterms, and things like that. They're really focused on their studies, and it's not uncommon once in a while for them to kind of slip back and not make that contact with their family. So we're always there to help with that. There's plenty of information about campus safety on the campus safety website. It's under student affairs, and you can just drop down to the menu. You can take a look at all the services that campus safety provides. And with that, Daphne, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. So next question is for Rob. So concerns for mental and physical health continue to rise amid the pandemic. What resources are available to students coping with mental or physical health issues while on campus?
Great question, Daphne. Obviously the pandemic has brought us challenges that none of us have ever seen prior to this, and I'm remarkably proud of the way our staff has responded to being able to be supportive to and respond to all of our students. Yeah, and as we go forward, we look forward to actually resuming what we've done well for so many years. We have a counseling center that is fully staffed. We have 5 full-time counselors, and as well as 2 part-time counselors who work up to 30 hours a week. We're actually adding a counselor in the counseling center for next year, and that's in large part thanks to a generous donation from an alum who's recognized the continuing need to support college students in all of the ways that we must in order to help them be successful here on campus. It's a great resource for our students. It's available 24/7 actually through an on-call service that uses Marty's staff and the campus safety staff. But in addition to that, we also have a 24/7 crisis center, or off-campus crisis center that we found that students may feel better calling someone who isn't necessarily affiliated with the institution during that first contact and that first point of contact. And so we've been very fortunate to work with Protocol, which is a national service serving many institutions just like Hobart and William Smith across the country. And we've been excited to have their support and for the last 2 years, and it certainly could not have been any more important than it was ever coming into this year, during which we had so many students starting last March who were remote, and we were able to provide telecounseling and telehealth to so many of our students through that process. We also offer a half-time psychiatrist on campus who is available to meet with students. We know that we have a lot of students who present with situations in which they may have been medicated in high school or prior to coming to college, and also students who may have been or may need to be medicated once they're here. And we realize that having an MD who's able to help titrate the medication, manage all of the elements of that go along with the late adolescent development is extremely important. So we've got a half-time psychiatrist who's here on campus, meets with students, has certainly in the past year met with students virtually as well, and has been able to assist us in that manner. And we look forward to moving that forward. Half-time right now because that's the amount of time needed, but we're certainly also looking at expanding that as needed. And then finally, we have a wonderful partnership to run our health center here on campus with Finger Lakes Health. Finger Lakes Health is the local hospital system. They run Geneva General Hospital. They have an affiliation with University of Rochester Medical Center, which is a primary teaching hospital in the state of New York, and one of the best hospitals in the closest level 4 trauma center for the institution. And Geneva General is run by a Hobart graduate, Dr. Jason Feinberg, who has been remarkably helpful. He sent 2 of his children through Hobart and William Smith, and has been remarkably helpful for us in establishing something that we can offer here on campus that is more robust than we'd be able to do on our own: testing services, x-ray services, blood draw services, the ability to prescribe medications that perhaps we would not be able to prescribe without access to their level of physician care. So it's been a remarkably strong partnership. Of that, along with their partnership with North Street Pharmacy, has allowed us to offer the opportunity for folks to have their prescriptions delivered here to campus. And so it's a very good partnership that has served us extremely well during the course of the past year, and move forward. And then finally, certainly during the pandemic, our partnership with the Ontario County Public Health Department has been remarkable. And I think that could be no further culminated than what we saw last Friday, where Hobart and William Smith was able to host, after trying to host a Johnson & Johnson clinic here on campus for most of this year, as most colleges had started doing that, and we were prepared to begin last week. the Johnson & Johnson vaccine went away. And through our partnership with the Ontario County Public Health Department and connections with our local political representatives, we were able to switch that quickly to a Pfizer first dose vaccination on Friday, which meant that we were able to host that clinic in a time frame that allowed our students to then finish that second dose on the last day of finals, on May 7th. And so it was a significant accomplishment, but it's also demonstrative of the partnership we have with our local public health and our local officials as well.
Thank you. So the Division of Campus Life encompasses many student-facing offices and resources across campus. What are some of the other ways that your office supports students throughout their 4 years at HWS?
Thanks, Stephanie. Yeah, it's a great question. Well, certainly Marty mentioned this before, but we have 24/7, 365 on-call staff. In campus safety, Marty's staff is always available, 24/7, 365, they're available. There's an on-call staff level in campus safety. And then outside of that, we have an on-call staff level with our residential education staff who live in our buildings, and then an administrative level on-call staff above that to try to respond to situations that may require additional support or additional resources. And that includes me and our dean's level staff. We also certainly have our offices of the Hobart and William Smith deans are part of campus life, and those are folks with whom every student will become acquainted during the very first weekend of orientation and have an ongoing relationship for the 4 years that they're at the institution. If you come in, your first year dean will be your dean throughout your time at the institution, and will be your dean when you graduate from the institution. And so it's a remarkable relationship. One of those deans is a Hobart graduate who has a daughter graduating this year. One is the William Smith dean has a William Smith student who will graduate next year. And so we have this wonderful relationship of students with our staff and faculty. The deans serve multiple roles. They come to know students as individuals to try to provide emotional support and certainly to provide support for those things that come up during the course of a college education during the 4 falls and 4 summers that a student is here. But they also serve as an additional layer of academic advising. Students all will have an academic advisor when they walk in the door. It will be their first year seminar advisor. When they declare a major, it will be an advisor from the division into which they declare a major. But the deans will be with them throughout that process, and will certainly serve them well as someone to whom they can go for questions. What do I need to do to meet this goal? What do I need to do to make certain that I've taken all of the required 300 level classes in my major or my minor in order to graduate? And Daphne is I'm sure experiencing this right now with her peers who are graduating, but we're going through this right now on how do we best manage that process. We also have our residential education staff who live in the residence halls and truly get to know our students. And I came up through residential education, but I'm consistently amazed here. It is impossible for me to raise the name of a student and not have someone on my staff know that student, know 35 things about that student, and know what we can do to best support that student. And that is really a huge element of what the residential education staff are doing. How do we get to know you? How do we support you in your living environment? Understanding that living environment has to be one in which you feel safe and secure in order to feel that you can be successful with everything else you're doing at the institution. And so that's an enormous part, and those are part of our 24/7 on-call staff as well. Athletics is also an enormous part of the division of campus life. And for those who may be considering participating in intercollegiate athletics or recreation in some way, coaches, I'm constantly amazed by what coaches know about students. There's a element where coaches perhaps serve as on-campus parents to students more than anyone that I've ever seen anywhere. So it's a remarkable element of what they do. And our coaches care. They recruit the students, they bring them in, they care for them while they're here, and they help them to move forward. They care about their academics. That's primary. That's why you choose a Division III level school for the most part. You care about academics, and that has primacy over everything else that we do at the institution. But then our strength and conditioning coaches, our athletic trainers will all hear things from students, and then our relationship between those folks and the on-call staff, the residential education staff, Marty staff is remarkable, and we just have and the dean staff to have a wonderful flow of communication to try to say that we truly do wrap our arms around our students, and if we know something's going on, it's not going to fall through the cracks. We figure out how to take care of that. And then I would say finally that our continuous involvement with other offices across campus. Obviously, I'm close to the community service director, and so that is an office, but career services, our connection with our intercultural affairs and HEOP staff, our connections with we run a national public radio station here on campus. We're one of very few institutions our size. We may be the only institution that runs an on-campus NPR station where we staff it with 2 full-time people and do our own programming on campus, as well as carrying NPR programming from across the country. And we're able to do that, but that connection, those students who work in the radio station build something with the director of the radio station, with the general manager of the radio station. And that's another way that we simply build some wonderful connections. So it's a pretty great opportunity for folks to become involved, and we certainly appreciate the opportunity to, if you choose to come here or trust your son or daughter to come here, we'd appreciate that opportunity greatly.
Great. So one last question before I turn it over to the audience. Do you have any words of wisdom for the soon-to-be first-year students on the line with us today?
Sure, I have the same words of wisdom always. The reason you choose a place like Hobart and William Smith is for the personal care. Prior to this, I've been at Holy Cross and at Colgate, and after being here for 17 years, I'll say that I think we do it better than any place I've ever worked. But any of these places, regardless of where you choose, find an ally. Pick an ally, choose someone when you come into the door and demonstrate and reach out to that person. So if it's a parent, pick a person. You can call the hall director in Durfee Hall here on campus, which is a small residence hall. You can call me, you can call Marty, you can call the student's dean, you can call the coach, you can call the faculty member with whom you happen to make a connection. But pick an ally, pick a person, and know that that person can always reach out to the right people to figure out how to get the help that's needed for your son or daughter to be successful at a place like this.
That's great, Rob. And I would say to everyone, take advantage of everything that HWS has to offer. There is so much here, from our career center to alumni engagement and connections, study abroad programs, to student activities and sports clubs and other organizations that are on campus. There's so much to do and so much to see. Take advantage of that, learn about it, and get involved in all those things that you've always dreamed about doing.
Well, Daphne, thanks so much for taking the time to join us tonight. Our students are amazing about doing this, and it's one of the things that my wife Katie and I look most forward to, is being able to welcome students into our home again starting next year. We do this multiple times every year. Marty does the same, and we haven't had the opportunity to do that for the last few months, or because of the pandemic. So it's just, we thank you very much. At this point, we open this up to questions in the chat. There is one right, and so please offer, if you have any questions, please feel free to share them. There's one right now about what COVID-specific safety measures do you envision for the fall semester? Right now, so some key elements. We're following the latest trends and information regarding the vaccine. I'm pleased to report that as of this morning, as of yesterday, more than 50% of our students had received at least one dose of either of the vaccines. As of this morning, the numbers that we've asked to be updated show us closer to 70% of our students have received one dose. All of that said, at this point, we're not in a place where we're saying that we're going to mandate the vaccine. We don't have institutionally mandated vaccination requirements. We follow those of the state of New York. And so if the state of New York does that, we will do that. We will follow suit. Obviously, if the CDC comes out and recommends it, then that's another conversation for us. But we encourage everyone. I was asked recently in an interview I did with a local TV station, what percentage of your students would you like to see vaccinated? And obviously the number is 100%, but I want those to be people who are comfortable getting that vaccine as well and feel willing to do that. So that's an element. We look forward to watching the fall. We're excited that we're able to offer a commencement for Daphne and her peers in a few weeks, that we're going to be able to host everyone on our quad, the most spread out commencement we've ever seen in our history of the institution. We'll put 1,800 chairs on a space in which we typically can put 9,000, but we will use that space so that parents and families can at least be there to celebrate in person while our students walk across the stage. And we have simply one of the most spectacular commencement settings I've ever seen in higher education. So it's a wonderful time. And Daphne, I hope it's a nice sunny day, not anything like today's slight snow, which is still beautiful in April, but we hope that it's not anything like that. And then certainly we're looking at classroom spacings. We've obviously spaced out a lot of our classrooms this year, spaced out dining halls, and we anticipate those restrictions will begin to ease. They have eased already in New York State for K-12 schools, particularly for K-6 schools. And we're continuing to monitor that. The governor in New York has not issued additional guidance for that, but our anticipation is that the fall will resemble normal much more than anything we've seen in the, I guess, 16 months prior to that. And so we're moving forward with that expectation to have fans and stands for games, but we anticipate there still will be restrictions, and we'll follow all of the good guidance that we get. Any other one other question I have here is relationships between Hobart and William Smith and the local hospitals and urgent cares. I think I did mention that our partnership with Finger Lakes Health is crucial to us, and it's one that's very important. Finger Lakes Health runs the majority of the local urgent cares. That means that our patient data, our student patient data, is also included. So if a student from Hobart and William Smith either goes to the hospital or goes to the one of the local Finger Lakes Health run urgent cares, the treating providers have immediate access to our student data, and that's enormous. It's hard. We had run an EMR system prior to this merger that worked, and it was helpful, but it didn't provide that immediate access to student care data. And so this has been an exceptional upgrade for us, and also then the relationship between the staff at Finger Lakes Health, particularly the chief medical officer and Marty and me and the folks that all know him. We can call this person 24/7, and similarly, he'll call us if he sees something that he's concerned about. And so it's a really strong relationship. There are some privately run urgent cares here in Geneva as well, and those folks are also very, very much communicative with the institution, but certainly our students, I think, vastly use their Finger Lakes Health urgent cares simply because of the connection. When a student calls our student health center after hours, then that call is automatically transferred to the urgent care, so that our one of the wonderful parts of this benefits of this partnership is that from 6 a.m. until 9 p.m., our students can call and talk to someone at urgent care who has some knowledge of their file, can pull their file up and have an opportunity to talk with them. Great. One last question I'm happy to address, our mental health services available remotely to students. Certainly during the pandemic, one of the things that came out is that a group of states got together to consider licensure requirements. New York was part of that, Massachusetts, most of New England, a couple of mid-Atlantic states, North Carolina, to be able to allow providers in each one of those states for mental health care who are licensed to offer remote or telecounseling despite the fact that there are typically limitations on the licensure, the degree to which licensure extends beyond state boundaries. We're continuing to look at that. There's a lot of conversation right now at the state level to say that is proven to be very effective, and particularly among college students, and particularly among institutions like us, where we have about 40% of our students come from New York, but 60% are outside of New York. And so it's been a very for private liberal arts institutions, for national institutions, it's become a very important element. And now there are multiple third-party vendors who are thinking about offering this in a different way. And we're in conversations with some of those right now to understand the best options that we could continue to provide. But we've seen the value of telehealth and telemental health, and I think that the country has, and certainly for college students, that's going to be something that we'll continue to look at. It's, as I talked to my staff this morning, I think that as we exit the pandemic, some of the most important things that we'll be able to do is talk about what did we do before the pandemic that we need to get back to? What are the elements of normalcy that are part of a small private residential liberal arts education that we have to return to? And then what are the elements post-pandemic that we can say we learned from and that were most successful for us, or that are things that we may want to continue to offer? And certainly our numbers in our counseling center, particularly in number of clinical hours requested, have gone up, certainly with the pandemic. But I also believe that there's an element of that where if I don't have to walk to the counseling center, but I'm able to do this from a room where we provide rooms on campus, there's an accessibility element of that has been important. And those will be the kind of things that we consider moving forward. Any other questions or anything we can answer? Well, we thank you. We thank you very much for joining us. If you have questions and you didn't want to ask them here, Marty and I are both available, certainly by calling 315-781-3000 and ask for either of us by name. Or our emails, mine is just flowers, FLOWERS @hws.edu. And Marty, I believe yours is just Corbett, CORBETT, right?
That is correct. Corbett @hws.edu.
Well, thank you all. And I'll just end by saying that this time last year, we were doing open house meetings like this. And I can remember the one that I was doing on a night very similar to this, when I walked into my office and the entire quad in front of my building and behind my building was full of deer. And in the 17 years I've been at Hobart Williams, there are deer out in this area forever. But the fact that there was no one on campus just led to the deer being everywhere all the time. And it was just a telling circumstance of the pandemic. And I am extremely pleased to say that there are no deer here tonight because our students are here. And that's what makes this place a wonderful place to work. So we thank you all very much.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.